I've been doing storytelling since 2017 and
Awesome.
stand-up since 2018.
Let's show people exactly what you're talking about and what you do.
I said, so do you think I have anxiety? And she was like, oh yeah. And then she goes, but I'm actually diagnosing you with something. You have obsessive compulsive disorder, more commonly known as OCD. And I was like, oh my God, I have something. Why can't I be anorexic like everyone else born in 1982?
People joke, they walked out being like, do I have OCD? People have been like, it really made me realize, I should see someone, not necessarily for OCD, but just like how good like talking to someone could be, just whether it's for anxiety, depression, or whatever it may be, just life.
If you were in Chicago, I opened the Alexian Brothers program.
Well, that's where I was at. Did I tell you?
Oh, well, that's cool. So that was I started that program actually.
Oh my God.
15 years ago. Yes.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Well, this is totally fun. Totally unscripted moment here, everyone. Yeah. You've probably heard of OCD, but I bet you don't really know that it's a condition that impacts 1 in 40 adults in the United States. Obsessive compulsive disorder is more than about just cleaning and organization. It causes intrusive, persistent, sticky feelings and thoughts and images that can seize on any topic, from romantic relationships to illness to spirituality, and really anything that matters to you. Now, this can cause significant anxiety and guilt and shame and disgust and whatever uncomfortable emotion it may grab onto, and it may make it hard to function in day-to-day life. If this sounds familiar, know that you're not alone, and help is available. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist with 25 years of OCD treatment experience, so I know how scary these symptoms can be, but I also know that they can be managed with the right type of treatment. This is why I lead a team of top-tier clinical experts at NOCD. NOCD is an online platform offering specialized, accessible, and convenient OCD treatment. My team and I have helped people take back their lives from OCD through specialized therapy that's covered by insurance. To learn more about OCD and effective treatment, head to nocd.com. That's NOCD.com. You deserve to live the life that you want to live, and not the life that OCD wants you to live. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date on our latest podcasts and webinars. Now, on to today's episode. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Patrick McGrath. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer for NOCD, and welcome to the Get to Know OCD podcast. Now, it's always fun for me to do the podcast, especially when I have comedians on, because as many of you may have seen from other of my videos, I can be a little irreverent, especially against OCD. I don't really like it, and so I like to tease it a little bit. I love the people I work with, but I don't like their OCD. So when we have a comedian who has OCD, it's always fun to talk about the use of humor and how we work with OCD. So Bridget McGuire, welcome to the Get to Know OCD podcast, and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and the work you do.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here today. I'm a big fan. A big fan of yours, also not of OCD.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a terrible. No, I don't know anyone who's a fan of OCD, honestly.
But yeah, I mean, do you want me to go into
Sure.
my comedic
Tell us
story,
about comedy and the work you do and everything. That'd be great.
Yeah, so I've been doing storytelling since 2017 and stand-up since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So I started a very cliche way. I had a bad breakup, and it was January in Chicago, so I was naturally a little bit sad.
Isolated, cold,
Yes,
sad.
yes.
Yeah, all the above. Yeah.
All the above. And
Yeah.
my therapist at the time was helping me think of new ways to meet people. I was 34 years old, a little bit over, going out every weekend. I'd just gone off a breakup, and she suggested rock climbing, and I was like, there's no chance. But I had a couple of friends that always suggested that I write down my funny stories. I have a very funny group of friends, but I always had random things happen to me, and they're like, you should write a book about your dating and everything. And so I Googled how to write a funny book, and there was a class at Second City called Writing the Humorous Memoir.
Oh,
Yeah. So I took that, fell in love with the writing process, started doing storytelling, and from there started doing stand-up. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
Well, and I know we have a clip, so I think that it would be great to then let's show people exactly what you're talking about and what you do. I would love to show that if that's okay.
Yeah, and do you want me to? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we producers behind the scene, they take care of it for us. Yeah, we're all good. So let's watch it and then kind of fill us in on what this was.
Is.
Yeah,
totally.
That would be great.
Okay, cool.
She gave me the Kleenex and I said, so do you think I have anxiety? And she was like, oh yeah. And then she goes, but I'm actually diagnosing you with something. You have obsessive compulsive disorder, more commonly known as OCD. And I was like, oh my God, I have something. Why can't I be anorexic like everyone else born in 1982? To say I was boy crazy growing up is a bit of an understatement. I started chasing boys when I was 5, but it got really bad between the ages of like 11 and 35. I would play these games with myself. I'd say, okay, on Sunday, I'm gonna run 4 miles and then Nick will call. And if he doesn't call, I will run 5 miles on Monday. And if he doesn't call on Monday, I will run 6 miles on Tuesday. I'm not gonna lie, I looked awesome. In my 30s, my OCD worries changed a little bit. They got more like medical.
Bridget, you don't have HIV. I'm sorry, I kind of like.
And she goes, oh, okay. Well, if you get more of these, you have hand, foot, mouth disease. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to eat. I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. That's it. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
That's great. So tell us about some of that, the inspirations behind those things. You're discovering OCD, the anxiety, all of that. Like, let's hear about you. Let's hear your story.
Yeah. So that show, Ballet Flats for Dinner, is my solo show that I just debuted last month in March at Second City in Chicago. And it is
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is the story of my life growing up with OCD. And, the many years that from when I was diagnosed until I was 38, what I did in between seeing therapists, but not really being honest about what my OCD is. But my story with OCD, I do come from a long line of worrywarts, is what my family likes to say. There's a lot of anxiety. There's probably some OCD traits that had happened, growing up. But I think my first really OCD worry came in first grade. I joined the Girl Scouts, and I had a extreme fear that my mom or dad would not pick me up, and that they would forget me, and that I would be left at school. And the ironic part is that I lived 6 houses from my school. So I had 2 older sisters that went to the school, it's probably from 3:30 to 4:15 or something. And the whole time I'd be there being like, no one's coming. This is it. So this is the last time I'm going to see my family. And
eat Thin Mints for the rest of your life to survive it.
Yes. That wouldn't be the worst thing. But that's when these are things that I look back and think, all the other little girls that were with and girls, they weren't thinking about that. And I was convinced. So looking back, I think that's like my first signs of OCD, like having this fear. I don't remember, honestly, if I did any compulsions to try and figure that out at 6, but I think I want to say it was really more, I talk about this in my show, but I got really freaked out when I had Family Life, which was the Catholic school version of sex ed.
Oh, yes. When I was in Catholic school, it was called Becoming a Person class.
Oh, that's a bit right there. I mean, I could do an hour on that one. Yeah. Apparently you're not a person until
no. Yes, becoming a person.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah, ours, I have a lot of bits on, what happened it was called the Robert Crown Health Center, if anyone's from the Chicago area. And it really freaked me out. And then, I literally from that day for the next 27 years, multiple times in a month and I would think I was pregnant for no reason. Even as I got older and understood how one gets pregnant, I still
and I'm assuming before the even way to get pregnant, you were fearing being pregnant, correct?
Oh yeah. Like
Mm-hmm.
light years before I could actually ever be pregnant. Either even like physically or actually like any act have happened.
Activity, yes. Right.
Activity. Oh yeah. I was like, kissed a boy and was praying that, I would I would not get pregnant from it. So
there you go. Yep.
Yes. So those are then, then I started doing a lot of these compulsions. Like this is a story in my thing, but in 8th grade, I got a phone for my birthday, and it was a big 90s phone that it looks like an office phone, really. And it had these big buttons, and I was on the phone morning, noon, and night. I was a huge phone talker, still am. And, one morning my mom said, "Hey, did you call Annie's house at 3 a.m, one of my friends?" And I was like, "No." And, in reality, what probably had happened is that I must have kicked the phone off my bed, and Annie was the last person I spoke to, and it hit the redial button. Like, they just saw on caller ID that they had a missed call from us at 3 a.m. But then I was like, I must be calling people in my sleep. And it was like, how can I make sure I never do that? So I dialed, I had this great plan with a lot of loopholes, but I dialed my birthday digits 4882 into my bedroom phone every night. And so in the morning I'd wake up and I'd hit the redial button. And if I heard 4 digits, I knew I didn't call anyone in my sleep.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And weird,
Yeah.
Just OCD.
It's just
so, those things. I mean, I was very worried about babysitting, that kids would die, and I would hit Home Alone, that I had everything kind of. But I didn't know. I look back, I think, and I asked my mom, when doing all this writing and stuff, and, I was nervous a lot, but also at the same time not, I wasn't like, I got good grades. I was involved in activities in school. I had friends, I wasn't like, there weren't these like huge signs, but I don't know if I was really telling anybody that I was like, slowly dying inside sometimes. Cause as like OCD, like ebbs and flows, where all of a sudden, once you get your answer that you didn't murder the kid you babysat for, you're like, oh, fine. Yeah.
Until the next time.
Until next Saturday night when you've got nothing. And you're like, do I go? And you're like, well, I really need the money, So, but yeah, so that's like my beginning. And then, I just, every stage in my life, it came in different ways. And when I thought I had a handle on it, I wouldn't, it just, and I did see therapists starting in college. No, I saw a therapist actually before college, and I loved her. And it was more, my mom recommended it to me, but I don't really know, but it wasn't for OCD. I don't know. I saw a therapist and she was great, but I was like, there's no way I'm telling this woman. I was 17.
Right.
I'm not telling her like really the truth about anything.
Sure,
I just complained about what 17-year-olds complain about, like not being able to use the car or something. I don't think or like friend stuff. I didn't really say like, oh, I'm doing these. Like, I worked at Remax Properties. A bunch of my friends and I did. We answered phones in high school. Mm-hmm. And to leave, if I was the last person to like leave Remax and close up, you had to like lock the doors and check. It would take me 9 years to leave this building. Sure. I'd just go back and check the door. And so, but I didn't know what that was. So I don't even know if I thought that's what you would tell a therapist.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how it's kind of a hidden thing? Because if you think you're doing something that no one else is doing, it's almost embarrassing. And you can even bring that into a therapy session and be embarrassed to tell a therapist about it.
Right. Oh yeah. Cause you're like, sounds so bad, So I did, and when I did see a therapist in college, she was the one that I say in the promo for my show. She diagnosed me with OCD, and she gave me the OCD workbook.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of like my, I don't know, like my security blanket for years. I never really filled it out because I was afraid to write any of the stuff down. But I just liked knowing
it makes it permanent, right?
Yes. And I'm like, God, if anyone ever read this,
right.
I'd be like, she's going to jail. If anyone ever read my phone between all the notes I have about jokes, like, and my notes app about jokes, or then ERP random stuff, they'd be like, what, what is going on? So I just kept that with me for like, it went from like, different apartments in Chicago. That I never saw the therapist again, but the book came with me. And every time I'd have a flare up, I'd be like, well, go to the workbook, and then be like, oh, okay. They had all the different scenarios. So it's like, oh, Peter, this happened, whatever Peter is a dad of two, or whatever the, things were. And I'd be like, okay, someone has this. I can go, I can go on about my work day. So, yeah, so that, and I saw therapists on and off, but just kind of the same, and never someone that was really specialized in OCD, except I did see one person specialized in OCD, and he was great, except he was so expensive and he was out of pocket. So my insurance didn't cover it. He was pretty far away. I was living in the suburbs. He was kind of in a far suburb. And, it wasn't like he had a Saturday at 11 I could get to. It was like, can you come at Wednesday at 2? And it's like, no, I've got to be at the office. So we did see each other for a bit. And I know that he is great because a friend that I know has OCD recommended, and she spoke like so highly of him. But I just was like, I can't afford this. I have the time. So I would see someone in my network, but they maybe weren't necessarily OCD. So a lot of times I did CBT, which doesn't work for OCD. And so I just, and I would just not do the work. I just wouldn't do it. Like I'd say, okay, and then I just, go out and maybe in the session I thought, okay, I'm going to really, one thing with the pregnancy, I was always buying Plan B for no reason. It was bizarre. And I was like 34, and I'm just like stopping by a CVS on a Wednesday just to pick up a $50 medication I don't need. And she'd be like, don't do it. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd leave her office and I'll be like, I'm just going to do it today. And then by next, whatever.
Yes. The OCD promise. This is the last time. Yeah.
Oh,
this is the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then that went on for a very long time. And then it was actually over the pandemic, because in February of 2020, I decided to actually get real help.
Awesome. Good.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Because I had gotten HIV medication I didn't need.
Wow.
So I did a little bit of OCD.
Yeah. That's, I want to hear the story, but I'd love to go there just for a moment. I mean, just so people truly understand the depths that OCD will take you. I want everybody to hear that you went and got HIV medication for it, but you don't have HIV. But you were so afraid of what if I do that it's probably best just to take this medication just in case, right?
Yeah. I mean,
people need to truly understand that that's where OCD will take people. And I'm just wondering if we could pivot for one moment into that. Tell people the mindset that you were in about how convincing OCD actually was at that moment that leads you to go get HIV medication.
And the thing is that is like the one that people are like, whoa, but the feeling that I had in that moment is maybe it was stronger, but like the hardest thing with OCD and anxiety in general is that because it's it's one thing if you think a thought and it passes and you're like, whatever, which you can do, I do, there's a lot of things I'm not afraid of or don't think, we have millions of thoughts a day, but when they get stuck on one and then your body starts to feel the panic, or, the amount of times that I have had morning sickness without ever being pregnant, it's insane, but your body really can start to create these symptoms, and you will do anything in that moment to feel better. Mm-hmm. So when I went to my gynecologist, she was like, are you sure? Like, asking all these questions, like, would you want to, like, whatever? And I'm like, no, just give it. She's like, it's hard on your stomach. She's like, it's going to be about $300. Like, insurance didn't cover it. I'm like, I don't care if it's $30,000. Like, I will take a loan out to make sure, and there's so many, like, looking in hindsight, or just, it's hard to take yourself out of that when you're in it. Like, when you're having a spiral, to step back and say, okay, like, A, you don't have HIV. You know what I mean? Like, the likelihood is very low. B, worst case scenario, if you were, like, people live with HIV now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not what it, so there's just like, it's like, it doesn't even, but also and I still, I see my therapist every other week now. And sometimes I will start to, and she's like, there's no solution here. Like, you can spin your wheels and talk about what the rational thing is. And it doesn't matter, because it's not going to, OCD will just, even if you're like, that doesn't make sense, it will make you feel like it does make sense. So you have to act on it. And there's no point to try and to figure it out. It's just like, just do your ERP and go to bed.
I say OCD is unfigureoutable. It's the word I've come up with. Yeah.
Yes.
But how hard that is for someone, especially as you were in the throes of it there. You've been lied to so many times by OCD and told that there is a solution, and you just haven't figured it out yet, but it is there. And if you just do this maybe one more time, you can finally get there.
Right. That's such a good point. And also, like, if you did look at the data, like, the amount of times none of it came true.
And it was 100%, maybe.
Yeah. But then you're like, but there's that one chance, like, this will be the time that, of course, the one time I don't worry about it is the time that it's going to happen.
I always like the Google search, right? Well, there was this one person one time on this small island that someone's cousin once told them happened. And that's, well, hey, there we go. That's enough. That's enough for OCD. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So in February, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I sought out someone that specializes in OCD.
Wonderful.
We made a great plan to meet twice a week, one to do ERP and one to just have regular talk therapy. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. So then we weren't seeing each other in person. And also my OCD was I wasn't that worried because I wasn't leaving the house. Right.
Sure. That makes sense.
I was at my sister's house. But then, so I it was hard to actually do ERP, like during the pandemic, or what she wanted me to do. I'm like, one thing, I would take pictures of everything, appliances, like before I left my apartment. And I'm like, I'm not leaving anywhere. But there wasn't much, there weren't really things I could put into action because, and then like making fake scenarios weren't working. And I just was like, maybe I'm better. Maybe those 1 month of, therapy with her. But then it came crashing down, and she, a few months in, I had a spiral, and I called her and was like, and she's like, honestly, I would love to help you, but I'm not sure I'm able to with this format. She's like, I don't think I can give you what you need right now. I think you need to go to outpatient treatment. Mm-hmm. So, which I don't know that a therapist ever had recommended, but I had met another comic that had OCD, and she told me she did this program years before. I looked into it, and I just was like, no, I mean, when will I do this? Like, it's Monday through Thursday, 6 to 9 in a suburb. I work in the city. I just found every excuse. I'm like, when will I, what if I have a stand-up show or a client dinner or a date or a workout class, and then now the whole world's in lockdown. There's none of those things. So, and I was very fortunate. My insurance covered it.
That's great.
Yes. So I really had no excuse. And I went to my mom's basement, so I didn't really go anywhere. But that program definitely, changed my life. And my sister gave me the best analogy about it. She said when her kids were little and they were learning how to swim, she said when they would do the weekly swim lessons, she's like, they kind of forget. Like they'd get back. And then she's like, and then I put them in camp where they were there for 5 days a week. And, and it's like, it really, they started to calculate. And by the end of the 6 weeks, they knew how to swim.
They were fish at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it kind of made sense. And I think if the pandemic had never happened, I think seeing my therapist twice a week in person, being accountable, I think I would have been fine. I don't know that I necessarily would have needed the outpatient, but then I wasn't doing the work during the pandemic. I wasn't talking to her every week. So but then, going to the program that really, it was I was there. I did it for, I think 6 weeks. So,
awesome.
And it could be, I mean, I don't know how long people, I think people do it from however long they need.
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, if you were in Chicago, I opened the Alexian Brothers program in Chicago. So that was my job for the 15 years before I came to NOCD.
Well, that's where I was at. Did I tell you?
Oh, well, that's cool. So that was I started that program actually.
Oh my God.
15 years ago. Yes. So,
oh my God. Well, yeah. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Well, this is totally fun. Totally unscripted moment here, everyone. Yeah. No. I started that program 15 years ago, and they still do, the ERP work and everything that I helped lay the foundation for and all that. So
that's what it was. That's what. Yeah.
Fantastic.
In Buffalo Grove.
It was in Hoffman Estates.
Or Hoffman Estates. I always get those
Hoffman,
confused. Two different.
Hoffman.
Yeah, that was and I was and years before I'm like, I'm not going out there.
Yeah, right. Who goes to Hoffman Estates right today, right?
I work in the loop. It'll take me forever. Like, there were so many things like, and I had such understanding bosses where I could have been like, hey, I have this thing going, my company would have more than happy been like,
of course.
Yeah, if you need to leave at 4 every day to help your it just the excuses you make. And also kind of, I think too, there's this kind of a scary element knowing you're going to get rid of all your safety nets.
Oh, hell. Yeah. I mean, asking somebody to give up the safety behaviors that they have really come to believe over the course of decades are the reasons why they're still safe at this point in their life. That's not a short order at all. That is a very, very big ask for anybody to do. Yeah. I always say you can't be brave if you're not afraid. And I tell people who are doing this how brave they are because of the fear they have of giving it up. Right? If it was easy to give up, it wouldn't be very brave. It's very hard to give up. Right. Very hard to change your behaviors. It is why we have intensive programs, even residential treatment programs for people who need it to that level also. But I'm wondering, too, if I could ask you, and thank you again for being so open about this.
Oh, yeah.
These are the conversations I think are so important. Let's say that you had hurt your arm and they told you needed physical therapy every day. Would you have had any qualms about doing that?
No.
No. Mm-hmm.
No, because you're like, no, it's totally, I guess is it still a stigma? I mean, I don't see it that way because I'm not like embarrassed or anything, but like, but 15 years ago, I might have been like, I don't want to,
Right. And that's what I love about the podcast. And that's what I love about your show too, is you're helping to break down stigma. I hope this helps to break down stigma. And I hope people just recognize, hey, there are treatments out there that are helpful, that are available, and you can come out on the other side living the life that you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live.
Oh, right. And that has been something that's been really cool about the show, is that people like have been like, people joke. They walked out being like, "Do I have OCD?" Because
Sure.
but a lot of it's just funny, and people are like, "I kind of did that thing too," But people have been like, it really made me realize, I should see someone, not necessarily for OCD, but just like how good like talking to someone could be, just whether it's for anxiety, depression, or whatever it may be, just life. But before I did the show, I wrote two articles, one for Prevention magazine and one for Women's Health. And I remember when I wrote the prevention article, slightly self-serving, because in like comedy and writing and stuff, you want to be published. And I remember thinking like, well, what's something that like people might care about, or, and I'm like, well, I could easily write about my OCD. This is after I went to treatment. So I did it, and Prevention published it. And, I put it on my social media, and so many people reached out to me afterwards, people around my age in their 40s, and said, this was so helpful because my daughter or my son is kind of exhibiting some of these, this stuff, and I don't know how to deal with it. And I was like, oh, I was kind of writing this because I wanted to get published. And then I was like, oh my God, I can help all these people. Like, what, not that I didn't think about that, but I didn't really think I'd get the response that it did.
Mm-hmm.
And, I like obviously wouldn't change anything about my life, but had my parents, and also maybe I just didn't tell my parents. I don't really know. Also, I'm the youngest of three. Like, a lot of things were going on. I'm doing like, checking behaviors. It's kind of more like, Bridget, come on, we're gonna be late. Like, they don't know that I'm like, but just, it was cool to see parents especially. And I'm like, God, if you can really nip this early, and then obviously you're never going to like completely get rid of it, but like if you can get the tools, your life will be just, that aspect of your life is going to be better.
Yeah. I like too how you described, therapy can be difficult to attain, right? And honestly, that's one of the reasons NOCD exists. Our CEO went to 5 therapists who were all talk therapists who tried to tell him to snap a rubber band on his wrist or do some diaphragmatic breathing or muscle relaxation. And
I had one tell me just to like picture a stop sign.
Oh yeah, that's always like.
And I was like, I'm driving right through it, and now I've killed everyone on the other side of the stop sign. Not really good for me to be driving.
No. And then when he found a therapist, it was $350 out of pocket, and it was an hour and a half away, just like what you were describing. And he, after he got through treatment and he got better, he's like, the therapy's not the problem. It's the ability to get the therapy that's the problem. Right. And that's why we do NOCD, because we wanted to be able to make it available virtually for anybody in the country. And we take more and more insurances all the time. We're always working that out, but we wanted people to be able to get on their phone and be able to have a therapy session and to do ERP with a licensed, trained professional. So which
is so incredible, because I'm trying to think the years that I was trying to see that guy, and I was maybe getting I don't even know what my insurance was at that time. And it was something like, it wasn't just 200, which is not just 200, but that's kind of, but it was like something like the 350, where it was like, how can I do this? I'm in school. So it's really incredible. And something too, that I think the pandemic changed this more, but like, I realized you do not need to be in person to do therapy. Well, there's a lot, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it has to be like, everything I did was over Zoom. And then actually, even since the pandemic, my therapist she's fully remote.
Yep.
So like, I'm in New York, she's in Chicago, doesn't matter. Like, so it's something that I think before maybe it felt like, oh, you have to see someone in person. And it's a nice benefit, but it's not necessary at all.
No, we've even published two of the largest studies in OCD now for adults and children and adolescents showing that we get great results doing this virtually, equal to or better than what people do in person. So it's been it's proven, you could do very, very good therapy virtual.
Right.
I like it too, because I could be in people's homes now. In the past, say if I was working with some reporting, I had to drive for an hour to their house. I had to spend an hour at their home and then I had to drive an hour back. Now I could just say, turn the camera on, let me see your house. And I can start to work with people right there. So that saves money for people too, and time for me. And I can see more people then because I'm not spending time in the car.
Right. Yeah. No, God, that's really true. I didn't think about that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it really works well. And I'm so thrilled that you got all the different levels of treatment that you needed to be able to do that. Tell us what your life's like now after the treatment. I mean, like you said, OCD it's not like it goes away. You still have intrusive thoughts and obsessions, no doubt, and everything.
Yeah.
But what's it like to not be ruled by them anymore and not have to be doing compulsions like you used to?
Oh, it's so much better. The picture taking of things on I would take a picture of my stove and candles that have never been lit and for years. And now I never take a picture. I do check. I'm going to make sure the stove is off, which I think most people do. But I'm not going back, taking multiple pictures. It just, and to be honest, that didn't take me that much time. It wasn't like I was waking up at 4 a.m. to take the pictures, but it's just unnecessary. And also it adds a little bit more anxiety. I think, I don't know, not that I studied abroad, but I've always lived in Illinois. And then I had the opportunity to move to New York. And I don't know. I do not know if I would have taken the chance had I not done the outpatient treatment. I don't know if you know, but New York is a great place to live with OCD. There is no uncertainty around it's, perfectly clean.
Yeah, there's no garbage on the sidewalks or anything like that. No.
I got faced with it's still, this is a hard one because I never, OCD things pop up. I look back and I'm like, I never once worried about bed bugs my whole life.
Okay. Yep.
And then in 2021, after the program, I had gone to this writing retreat in Maine. And I stayed at a hotel the first night, and there was a bug in the bed, but it wasn't a bed bug. Okay. It was just a random black, and it wasn't. They were like, no, they looked it up and showed me. It was just like a beetle or something, but it freaked me out. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking about bed bugs. Mm-hmm. So I had a little bit of and I was like, don't get obsessed with bed bugs. But then, you read one thing about bed bugs, and I have an OCD brain. So I was pretty, when I first moved to New York, I was living, everything's small, but I was living in a very small studio, and I was traveling a lot for my day job in advertising. So I was in and out of hotels. But I would still always check to make sure there were no, I would check the beds, which, I don't know, my therapist and I do talk about this because I'm like, is this OCD or is this just being precautionary? But then I have my sister who travels a lot for work, and she's like, I don't care at all. I don't check the bed. She's like, I throw my suitcase on the bed, and I'm like, you could prevent this. But I ended up getting bed bugs.
Oh, no.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it is, I don't know if you've ever had them.
No, I have not.
I hope you don't ever get them.
Mm-hmm.
It's annoying because you have to put all your clothes, you have to first wash and dry your clothes, take things to dry cleaners. You don't have to throw everything away, but you have to live for 2 weeks with all this, these chemicals over the floors and stuff. So you're just living in chaos. And that wasn't the bad part. And even getting bit by a bed bug wasn't the worst part. And there was they didn't see a ton. I don't know how long I had them. No matter what, it's it is the aftermath of bed bugs, which my sister now calls head bugs, which I'm sure she did not make that up, but it is true because it is, and it is something that I'm like, God, my OCD is testing me. Like, but all in all, like I had a fear of bed bugs and I got them, and I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. It's not anything anyone wants to deal with, but like I survived it. And at first I bought everything. I bought this like space kit that you can put your suitcase in after you get back from a trip, and it will heat everything up. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And then I bought all these sprays, and I don't use them. I mean, do I still check when I travel? Yes, because I don't want to go through that again. To make, but like I can't, it sits with me, but like I can't live my life like, if I had an apartment or a house that had outdoor space, I would leave my suitcase out there for a day. I don't. I live in New York. I live in a 1-bedroom and a walk-up that isn't huge. Like there's nowhere to leave my suitcase outside to make sure no bugs got in. Like I'll check when I do my laundry, but I'm like, I can't live my life thinking about, but so it's like those things. Like, and my therapist, she's great, and she put it the best way. She's like, I want you to be able to like know you can handle anything that comes your way, so you don't have to worry about it ahead of time, because if it happens, you'll have the tools. And it was like, oh, bed bugs was a fear. It came true. At first I thought I was gonna, but now, I mean, and also, I want people to come visit me and stay at my apartment.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't want to be like, hey, can you put your suitcase in this heater really quick? That's not, it is one of those things. Like my parents are 73 and 77. They've never had bed bugs. You know what I mean? Like it is common, but it's not that common. So like, you can't just go around like and there's really no way for me to prevent it. So that's one that's like a OCD challenge that's been, something that kind of still sits with me, but.
Well, yeah. And what has improved too? A, you could do all the compulsions in the world. Things can still happen. And B, usually when those things happen, they're nowhere near as bad as what OCD told you they were doing.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it was annoying 2 weeks.
Sure.
And I couldn't
no doubt
go to the office. Because then if you brought bed bugs to the office, I felt
terrible,
dirty, but like, I know a lot of people that have had them. It's just from traveling, like,
Yeah.
And it's just, So, but I think like, but like, so like life on the other side, so much better. I'm able just to, even just, I'm really able to put off the compulsion for let's do that tomorrow. And usually by tomorrow, the urge is gone. And if it's there, and if I choose to act on something, I always say like, I'm acting on this and I'm making the decision to act on it. But I don't end up acting on stuff as much as I ever,
That's awesome.
Good. Sometimes I can fall back. And something with my therapist too, it's like, I notice when things are stressful more in my life, whether it's like work or a lot of, even if it's like good stress, I know I see my OCD pop up a little bit, and then I kind of name it. I'll do ERP. I'll let it sit with me, but not act on it. And, it fades.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's what we want for everybody too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Just allow it to fade. Allow it to fade.
Yeah.
What is one of your favorite parts of your show where you talk about, like something related to OCD? Can you give us a little, just live aspect of something that you really just,
I think one
hits the audience well or something. Yeah.
Yeah. No, when I was diagnosed, and I say in the show, like, as you saw briefly, I'm like, oh, I have something. Like, can I get attention for this? That's just me being the youngest child, always wanting attention. Like, can I go to school? You know. But what I say next is, oh my God, Monica on Friends had OCD and she's so pretty.
Well, yeah.
And then I think, wait, but I'm not like Monica on Friends. You know, I'm not very organized. Like, things don't have to be facing a certain way. I think something that is funny, but also educational to people that don't know much about OCD is that OCD is not like, when everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so OCD, because they, you know, they want to make sure there's no dishes in their sink at night or something. I'm like, that's not really OCD.
Yeah.
So I think that's when people are like, you know, I think the show is very funny. But I think people are like, oh, I didn't really know this. Like, you know, people, I think, like, you know, saying Monica and Friends, and I'm like, I'm not like her. I don't organize. I'm messy. You know, I sit on toilet seats. Like, or just things that you think of OCD. And then I tell the therapist, I'm like, oh, excuse me, I don't think I have that. And she's like, oh, well, you have this type called intrusive thoughts.
Yeah. And
that's when I'm like, oh, this is not the mental illness I had envisioned for myself as an adult. You know.
That's a good one.
I like
So you know, why can't I? You know. But that's, you know, something fun. I think that, you know, the show is funny, but I think it's also, I think some things people will relate and they'll think it's funny, but I think there's a big education learning about OCD, education as a learning, teaching, but also I think the message is to get help and like not be afraid, no matter if it's OCD, whatever it might be. You know, and I personally am just, you know, life is so short, and to laugh is, you know, because sometimes after a whole spiral, you know, you're able to laugh at it. I'm like, that is so insane.
Of course.
Like, that was ridiculous. And then it's kind of funny, and you're like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I did that. But in the minute, it seems so serious, and so, you know, it must be true. So I think, you know, being able to kind of make fun of it helps as well.
Where can people see the show? Will it come back out again, or what's the plan?
So I actually just sent in the official contract today. It will be at the Triad Theater on the Upper West Side in New York on Thursday, June 5th. Yeah. And so that's the next time I'll be doing it. And then hopefully my goal or dream is to bring it all throughout the US, and, you know, maybe next year bring it to like Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to see it. So I'm excited. So,
and hopefully, actually, I think I'm going to be bringing it back to Chicago in the fall.
Oh, good. Well, I will see you there in Chicago then. That'll be nice and easy.
Perfect.
Before we go,
yeah,
what's a piece of advice you would give someone who's on the cusp right now? They're thinking about treatment, and they're just wondering, is this the right time? What would you say?
Yes. Well, the answer is, it is the right time, because the more you, a part of my show is kind of the evolution of the OCD. Because I think as I got older, things got bigger and bigger and bigger, you know? Like, I think I did smaller things as a kid, and then they seem more serious, and then you end up taking HIV medication you don't need. So I think the answer is yes. And I also think too, like, obviously check out NOCD, because that's, you know, go to like one session.
Yes.
You know, one session, and then decide. Don't say no, I can't, I don't have time. Everyone has time. You know, and just do one session, see how you feel. Also, not every therapist will be for you.
Right.
So if you go to one session and you're like, I didn't really like their vibe, or you didn't jive, go to another person, you know.
Try another one. Yeah. Try
another one, because some, you know, and like my therapist said, you want to, you know, be able to like live your life and live it well, and also know that you can handle anything that comes your way. And if you have the ERP toolkit, you definitely can.
Awesome. Well, Bridget, thank you for being so open today about
course.
everything. And I hope everyone will have an opportunity to see your show and
Yes.
really learn and laugh and take a step back and recognize that OCD doesn't have to be the serious thing that it tells you that it is all the time, right?
Yes. No, exactly. Yes. Well, thank you so much for everything you guys are doing. It's really cool. And I hope I can help spread the word too.
We appreciate it. And thank all of you for watching the Get to Know OCD podcast. If you like it, you can subscribe to the NOCD YouTube channel, where you can see our other podcasts and other videos that I've done, and my Wednesday night webinars are recorded there as well. And if you're looking for help for OCD, check us out at nocd.com. That's NOCD.com. We have people waiting to take your call right now and therapists licensed to treat you in the states that you live in. We also do work in Australia, the UK, and Canada. And we take more and more insurances all the time to make sure it is affordable for you so that you can get the evidence-based treatment that will help. We'll see you again on another episode of the Get to Know OCD podcast soon. Take care of yourselves.